It's actually just learning how to trust and let go so that you can just allow yourself to be that. That all forms of trying are instituted through the ego. It's the ego that tries. And what you learn is that, oh, I just need to let myself be myself. I need to let myself be my authentic energy. And that I've been trying to be nice. I've been trying to be cool. I've been trying to be popular. I've been trying to be successful. I've been trying to be influential. I've been trying. And it's exhausting. We invest way too much energy in trying and not enough energy into just being, because being is effortless. It's going to happen whether you try it or not. And that's where it's just this sense of, going back to kind of that question that I asked, like, and again, the sort of what's the point? It's like I like to say, look, when you get to your deathbed and when you know, like, shit, I think it's time, would you like to look back on your life and say, well, it might not have been everything that I wanted it to be, and I might not have achieved everything that I wanted to achieve, but at least I was myself all the way through, and I can live at peace in my heart knowing that I didn't miss out on being myself. But if we get to our deathbed and it's like, fuck, I've spent my entire life trying to be something for this idea that I had that was the ideal, and I was never happy, never fulfilled, never satisfied. And whose fault is that? Fuck, it was my fault? What? I'd rather be at that point where you're giving up the ghost and saying, you know what? I've done my best at being myself, and that's really all I could do. So, cool. Time's up. Time to go.
It's funny, man. There's a few things there I want to say. One thing is that they've done studies. I don't know how comprehensive they are. I'm not a scientist, but there's a study or a news article out there where some lady went and asked people what was the biggest regret in their life. Top 5 regrets. I can't remember them all, but one of them was, I wish I was more true to myself. It wasn't, I wish I spent
Yeah.
more time at work. I wish I made more money. I wish I had more boats or
Yeah.
whatever. One of the top
Yeah.
regrets was, I wish I was true to myself. The other thing, before I forget, is I'm living in Peru at the moment, so I'm working quite fairly frequently, probably compared to most people, with plant medicine, ayahuasca and huachuma as well. And the thing that I keep learning, I keep getting, I'll learn it and then I'll forget about it. Then I learn it and I forget about it, is basically what you said, where it's like all my ideas about everything are just getting in the way of everything. And especially, it's so clear to me on the plant. So I'll have an idea about, I've got this issue and it's because of this happened and now it's set up this dynamic in myself. Like, I've read books about trauma and psychology. Like, I think I get what's really going on. And I just keep learning that every time I do that, every time I try and put a box around my experience and think I know what's really going on, it blocks the magic of these beautiful medicines, plant medicine.
Yeah.
And when I can just sit back and let go of the mind, let go of my ideas and just feel, and it's not comfortable sometimes because it's like hitting stuff in the body that's like, oh shit, that really hurts. And it's really trying to, it's like you said in your mushroom video, it's learning to relax around these spots of tension so then the energy can start to flow. But it's very much a process. I've been doing this for a while, not as long as you by the sound of it, but it just takes time. And it's really, sometimes it's great.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's incredible. It's the best journey I've ever been on. Sometimes it absolutely sucks, but you do it. Well, I do it anyway.
Yeah. So here is where, again, 5-MeO-DMT is really unique, because this kind of goes back to your earlier question in terms of like, what does it look like and what's the point? How do you help this land within yourself? So again, in most psychedelic experiences, we're still grappling with the ego, and we're experiencing, okay, yeah, there's the ego in the way, there's the ego trying, there's the ego thinking about things, there's the ego wanting to have a plan, wanting to have a solution, there's the ego wanting to avoid, oh, there's discomfort, I want to squirm. And, let's just call it out that it's hard for the ego to get out of the way, because it's kind of its perpetual business is to get in the way. So just getting it to drop and fall away is very, very difficult. And this is why a lot of people turn to meditation, because meditation is a way of at least quieting the mind. But even there, we have somewhat of a misidentification that the ego is the mind, when the ego is not the mind, that the ego is in the body. It's actually how we are identifying with our expressions within the body. But anyway, so with 5-MeO-DMT, what can happen is that if the ego does fully get all the way out of the way, suddenly the body starts to respond and to release and process energy in a way that is completely free and unencumbered. So, for example, someone thinks, oh my God, I'm dying. Now, at that point, the ego can say, oh shit, no, I'm scared, and it can clamp on and have a very difficult experience. Or the ego can say, I'm dying. Okay, cool. This is awesome. And it gets out of the way. So then, if somebody has a lot of repressed trauma, at that point, it will spontaneously come up and out of them. So they just might start screaming bloody murder. They might start crying. They might start throwing up all over the place. And even a really common one on 5-MeO-DMT is for people to throw up and then put it in their hands and like smear it all over their bodies, where they're kind of reveling in this state of ecstatic release of all this negative energy that they've been storing, and self-loathing and self-hatred and criticism that they're letting it out. And they're just in this state of unconditional love where they don't care, like, oh, I'll just rub it all over myself because I'm just ecstatic that I'm in this state. And so there's this profound cleaning out of these stored energies. And it's not processed through the ego. It's not processed through the mind. It's something that the body just does all on its own. And this is really one of the great gifts of 5-MeO-DMT, that because it can energetically override the ego, it allows for this processing and releasing of energy to take place at a very spontaneous and fully authentic level. And then, about halfway through the experience, you start to feel the first layers of egoic identity come back. And that's a place where then people can start to consciously observe, oh, there's my identification. There's what I think I should do. So, for example, if someone just smeared vomit all over themselves, the ego comes back and the ego says, oh my God, this is disgusting. I can't believe I just did this in front of these people. I'm so embarrassed. And then the person can say, yeah, but actually, it's all okay. You don't need to be embarrassed. This is quite beautiful. You can allow yourself to be this. You can allow yourself to have this experience. So that's where, as the ego comes back, people get the opportunity to really see, this is what I've been telling myself to be. This is how I've been limiting myself. Look at all this crap I had stored up in me, and I didn't even know it was there. And that's another thing. It's usually surprising that, you can take people who are like, oh, I'm totally well adjusted. I don't have any traumas to release. I don't have any backlog of energy. I'm totally myself, right? And then all this shit comes out, and it's like, well, no, I don't think you were you? So it operates on a level that we don't see with other psychedelic medicines. And then if you can couple your work with 5-MeO-DMT with these other more dualistically interactive medicines, then it takes these other ones to new levels. So, honestly, a lot of people who've been in the ayahuasca scene, when they get to 5-MeO, a lot of them are like, I don't know why I'd ever drink ayahuasca again. Because 5-MeO-DMT is like so much more profound and effective. But for those who do, that it changes your relationship, that you start to understand the experience and the process quite differently. So it can be very effective. And I generally do recommend that people who are undergoing, again, I call this energetic reformatting and recalibration. If you're interested in doing that, actually working with a variety of different entheogens is quite valuable, because each one presents a different spectrum of energy. If we kind of look at the electromagnetic spectrum, that we've got infrared, we've got ultraviolet, we've got the visible light spectrum, and each psychedelic medicine kind of gives you a different band within that spectrum. The thing about 5-MeO is the entire spectrum. It's the whole thing. But others are more limited. So ayahuasca gives you this range. Mushrooms gives you this range. Salvia divinorum gives you this really weird, freaky range over here in these subterranean energies. But working with different entheogens are different energetic tools, and you can essentially learn how to vibe into them and synchronize and resonate with that energy, so that you take on these different energetic formations as you move through that process. And it allows accessing, like MDMA. It's really good for if you're like closed off in your heart. MDMA is really good because it opens that shit up. If you're dealing with a lot of tension and anxiety, things like mushrooms and ayahuasca work really well because they're working down in your gut, and that's where we tend to hold on to tension and anxiety is more down in the abdomen. Um, there's just lots of different ways that that applies, but it's about getting into our energy and allowing ourselves to express and release, and then find how do I bring that same level of freedom to when somebody asks me, like, how are you doing today? Do I just give them the canned answer of, oh, I'm doing great? Or is actually, I'm having a pretty profound day today. I just had some deep insights into the nature of being. Or it could be, actually, I'm having a horrible day. I just got diagnosed with cancer and I'm feeling a little bit depressed about it, but I'm managing the best I can. It's just this level of honesty of actually just speaking from where we truly are at in any given moment and allowing our voice, allowing our tone, allowing the energy behind the words to consistently match. Like if you ask somebody, how are you doing today? And they're like, oh, well, I'm just really having a terrible day, but man, it's great. You're like, whoa, the energy behind your words there is really fucked up. That there's no consistency there between the energy and what you just spoke and the words that you said and the ideas that you're trying to communicate to me. And so I'm just looking for, can we just get that consistency that I am always speaking from that place of authenticity? And then my voice will modulate according to what I'm actually thinking and feeling and allowing that to come through.
I love this, man. It seems like, once upon a time, I would be journaling and meditating and doing all this stuff, trying to fiddle with the mind. And if I could just figure out the mind, then it would all click in. And, and over time, working with these plants and some of the nervous system stuff, it's become clear to me, at least, that it's all about the energy, or whether we say energy, survival, stress, trauma, just this stuff that hides in the body. And my experience now with it is that the mind, all these thoughts, are like built, or they're just leaves on a tree. They're either that or built, you pick your metaphor, out of all this stuff we carry in the body. If we can clear it in the body, and often we can clear it from the body, whether it's a 5-MeO or different practices, without it even having to think about it. We don't even need to know where it's from, what happened, what it's all about. We don't even need to have a memory about it. It can just come up and out and it's gone. It's beautiful. Like, it's so, to me, it's been such a weight off, because it's like, oh, I don't need to understand everything. I don't need to have a story or a narrative for everything I'm feeling. I can just feel it and then it's gone. Feel it and then it goes. It's really simple.
Yeah.
Not easy.
Yeah, it is. It's too simple. The ego reacts to it. So, I spent 7 years facilitating 5-MeO DMT experiences with clients. And, all these massive energies would arise within these events. And there'd be all these things releasing and all these things transforming. And, I'd be working with clients and different energies would be moving through me and all of this stuff. And afterwards, it was really common for people to say, well, what was that big energy that jumped out of me? Where did that come from? And they don't really know. And also people would ask me, like, okay, well, what did you see? What's your interpretation? And I would always just tell them, look, it's just energy, okay? It's just energy. You don't need to know. That if you really need to know, you'll know. But otherwise, it's just suppressed energy that hasn't been released. And I would use this kind of crass metaphor. I'd say, look, let's imagine that your toilet is clogged. Okay, what's your number one priority? You probably want your toilet to flush. You want the thing to work correctly, right? So that's what we're doing here, is we're getting your system to work properly. But if you want, we could sit around and we can look in the bowl. It's like, wow, what did that person eat? Did they have enough fiber in their diet? What's going on there? Who clogged this thing up and why did they do it? It's like, do you want to obsess over the shit in the bowl, or do you want the thing to work properly? So that's where I'm at on it. It's like, look, it's all energy. Your job is to ride with it. And then we have to keep in mind, all of our thoughts are energies. Literally, they're brain waves happening and electrical firings of our neurons in our head. All of our emotions are energies that arise up within our being from our heart that we can feel. And then everything we've ever sensed is energy. Light is just energy. Sound is energy. Tactile sensation is just nice, solid, rough, smooth, cold, slick, hot energy, right? Energy is all around us. We are energy. Everything is energy in one form or another. And our job as a vehicle of the one universal consciousness is just to be in sync with what is and allow, and all these energies arise up. And it's our job to embody them and express them, and then they release and let go, and then we move on. And that's